Lu Mingwei was reborn on the day of her divorce. The scumbag who had plagued her for a lifetime spoke confidently in front of her, "Vivi, I know I'm a talented person, but you can't hang yourself from a tree either. Although we missed each other, you won't meet anyone better than me again, but you must live a good life and not underestimate yourself." The first thing that Lu Mingwei, who had been accustomed to hypocrisy in her previous life, did when she opened her eyes was to give this stinky man a scolding. "I praise you because I am particularly hypocritical, not because you are really awesome. Please look in the mirror and have a clear understanding of yourself." "Thank you." Chui Sol Tower picked his eyebrows. He used to think that Lu Mingwei was blind in addition to hypocrisy. This time, both problems were cured together. In her previous life, Lu Mingwei lived alone and was a famous old lady in the Shengjing circle. Reborn for a lifetime, she decided to change her ways. What is a man? She only wants to be beautiful alone. But for some reason, her path became increasingly wrong. A wealthy and dandy young prince, a handsome general with a carefree demeanor, and a young and cool head assistant have all become her favorites. Keywords of the novel. Boudoir's son.in.law no pop-ups, Boudoir's son.in.law txt complete collection download, Boudoir's son.in.law latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Wedge. Birthday Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Wedge. Birthday Banquet. The spring rain in the capital continued for several days, with a warm spring breeze. The early arrival of the rain urged the spring flowers to bloom one after another. The peach trees in the backyard of Changyong Marquis's mansion were in full swing, and from a distance, they looked like a sea of pink flowers. As soon as the wind blew, they fell to the ground in a flurry. Flowers are adorned with brocade, and the Changyong Marquis's mansion is decorated with lights and colorful decorations, full of joy. On the 9th day of the Lunar New Year, it is the 70th birthday of the Changyong Marquis Lu Xianzong. Posts have already been distributed everywhere in the mansion, and people from far and near have also rushed back to congratulate or provide support. The Changyong Marquis's mansion is so lively that it seems like another new year has passed. In a peaceful atmosphere, Lu Xianzong was receiving his children's birthday greetings, and his whole body was full of joy. Even at the age of 70, he still had very little white hair and was spirited. When his third daughter, Lu Linlang, and her husband, Crown Prince Wu Wenjie of Chu, knelt down and kowtowed, saying auspicious words of evergreen pine and cypress trees and a long life of 100 years, his smile deepened. He touched the beard on his chin and nodded contentedly, pleasing his daughter and son.in.law to wake up quickly. He smiled and praised his stepmother Lin, saying, "You still know how to raise children. My son.in.law came back from 1,000 miles away with Peng'er, so this kind of heart is rare. Lin's maintenance is appropriate and he has a balanced approach." Upon hearing these words, he couldn't help but smile and say, "Look at what the Marquis says. He always says that the father is kind and filial, isn't it because the master is also good to them? They naturally deserve to do these things." The atmosphere was lively and harmonious, and everyone praised Lu Linlang for being filial and sensible. Wu Wenjie was also skilled in both literature and martial arts. Lu Xianzong became even more energetic and wanted to be humble. When he saw the butler rushing in, he couldn't help but frown in displeasure. So many guests are here, what's the proper way to act recklessly? The butler didn't care about so much and wiped the sweat off his head. He lowered his head and reported anxiously, "Marquis, Madam and Miss Eyre have returned." The laughter in the room suddenly disappeared, and everyone had different expressions on their faces. Lu Xianzong's face immediately darkened. He had 5 daughters, but he was most afraid of others mentioning his second daughter. The reason was not for him, but because this unfilial daughter was already 40.8 years old and had not yet married, he became the laughing stock of the entire capital. At this moment, everyone's different gazes fell on him, and his good mood just now was swept away. He had originally planned to have the butler take the person directly to the backyard, but thinking of his daughter's rigidity, he stood up and hurriedly walked out. Lu Mingwei was excitedly holding a painting and standing in the flower hall at home. Although the servants refused to lead her to the main hall, she didn't think it was useless. After all, she had become accustomed to it in recent years. Because she couldn't get married, she knew she had already implicated the Changyong Marquis' mansion in the capital, and even the whole family was in a state of disrespect. Therefore, she had already learned to turn a blind eye to these neglect and contempt. The older she gets, the more embarrassed and disgusted her unmarried old aunt is at home. In order to avoid making things difficult for her family, she voluntarily requests to go to the temple. Throughout the year, she only comes back during festivals. This time, because Lu Xianzong was going to celebrate his birthday, she specially rushed back from the Luoyun temple and used her accumulated silver to buy a painting, specifically prepared to give it to Lu Xianzong to celebrate his birthday. As a child, although she was the least promising, at this moment, if she didn't come back, she always felt uneasy in her heart. Besides, only by coming back can I meet my half-sister and younger brother, and their chances of meeting will only decrease in the future. As she was thinking about it, she heard a rustling sound outside and couldn't help but take a few steps with joy. Father promised to see me. Before she could finish a sentence, she received a heavy slap on her face, and the painting in her hand fell to the ground, rolling in a circle to reveal the image of an eagle on top. That was the personal handwriting of the painting saint that Lu Xianzong wanted the most, but it is no longer important now. The surroundings suddenly became quiet, and Lu Mingwei covered her face with some disbelief. She heard Lu Xianzong's hysterical scolding, "What are you doing back? My good birthday, who let you, the bereaved star, come back? Do you really want me to die?" A series of rhetorical questions confused Lu Mingwei. She originally thought that if she didn't come back, the face-saving Lu Xianzong would be unhappy. After all, he was the most superstitious and wanted face, always muttering about whose family's birthday celebration had children who didn't show up, and his face was ruined. But it turned out that Lu Xianzong didn't even want to have her as his daughter. Surrounding people rushed up to Lu Xianzong, who was pounding his chest and feet with anger. Without hesitation, Lu Mingwei's elder sister, Lu Mingxi, stood in front of her and choked up, questioning Lu Xianzong, "Dad. Today is your 70th birthday, and she just wanted to congratulate you. She came back from afar, how could you hit her? I don't want her, this unfilial daughter, to congratulate me on my birthday." Lu Xianzong's angry face turned red and his neck was thick. Over the years, his colleagues' discussions, ridicule from relatives and friends, and strange looks made him exhaust his fatherly love for Lu Mingwei. He was a bit unscrupulous and said, "I wish she had died outside. If I had known that, she should have died on a pillar when she withdrew from marriage, which was even more embarrassing than now." At some point, the stage outside had already started singing. Today, the 5 women were singing their birthday greetings, and the joyful eru sounded. Lin Shi came up to Lu Xianzong in a soft voice and said, all right, what kind of anger do you have with Wei Wei? Let's not say a few words. The prince and the others may have already arrived, so you should go out quickly." Lu Xianzong was stationed in Shandong and worked under the command of King Cui Fengming of Lu. When he celebrated his birthday, King Lu personally came and gave him a great face. This is a big deal. Without bothering Lu Mingwei anymore, Lu Xianzong reached out and pointed fiercely at her, impatiently scolding her, "What are you still doing here? Your parents-in-law are still outside, but your daughter-in-law is missing. They thought our daughters and children were tutors. Get out." The Lu family was the one in command of Emperor Lu Xianzong. It was only after he spoke that he could count. Although Lu Mingxi was already a mother-in-law, he still dared not disobey his intentions. He had to pinch Lu Mingwei's hand, indicating that she would temporarily endure and then leave. Someone else came to urge him outside, and Lu Xianzong gritted his teeth and turned to look at Lin's instructions. After the birthday banquet, take advantage of no one's attention and send her out. Go to Luoyun Temple to see who let her go down the mountain, and punish me severely. Lin still looked warm and gentle, without even looking at Lu Mingwei in the face. With a gentle response, she helped Lu Xianzong out. The noise just now instantly faded away, and the room was a bit eerie. Lu Mingwei stood in place, looking at the painting and squatting down in confusion, wanting to go and pick it up. I have opened a new book, feeling nervous and anxious. I am seeking collection and recommendations, and now I am accepting everyone's test. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Dog Men and Women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Dog Men and Women. Her fingertips had already turned a little pale with force, and after a while, she trembled as she rolled up the painting to put it away. However, the painting suddenly couldn't resist the force and broke in the middle. Half of the eagle's wings were broken, as if it were her current appearance. She looked up against the resistance and saw the smiling eyes of Lu Linlang, causing a sudden stabbing pain in her heart. Lu Linlang, who was also the daughter of Lu Xianzong, was fortunate enough to occupy all of Lu Xianzong's favor. Even if he was expelled, it was because Lu Linlang happened to fall in front of his future brother. Law. The future brother. Law fell in love with Lu Linlang at first sight and divorced her for the sake of his sister's anger. But Lu Xianzong didn't look at the process, didn't care about the reasons, only looked at the results. She was expelled and became an unwanted old girl, a burden to the family and a disgrace to the family. She used to be so naive. What made quitting marriage a shame for the family, and what made the family shameless because they couldn't get married even after being in their 40s. In the end, it was just because having a stepmother meant having a stepfather. For Lu Xianzong, new people were better than old people. Seeing Lu Mingwei squatting on the ground holding the painting, with veins protruding from the back of her hand, Lu Linlang looked at her from a high position and suddenly exclaimed in surprise, "Second sister, why are your hair all white?" This kind of trick has been performed countless times, and Lu Linlang is like this, always speaking the most vicious and piercing words in the world with an innocent look. In the past, Lu Mingwei was afraid of difficulties for her elder sister and younger brother, and also afraid of family discord. She never argued with Lu Linlang, and she listened to everything she said. But now, waves of anger surged in her heart, to the point where she lost control and threw the scroll to the ground. "Isn't this thanks to what you gave me? What accidentally fell and was picked up by Wu Wenjie, what fell in love at first sight and promised each other for life, it's all just a joke." Previously, Lu Mingwei dared not say anything, but now she suddenly felt that there was nothing to worry about. Seeing Lu Linlang looking at her in surprise, she sneered and said, "If it weren't for you seducing her future brother. Law and your mother leading you to seek life and death, how could you get married to the Duke of Chu?" The room was quiet for a moment, and Lu Linlang seemed to be scared by her. Suddenly, she held her heart in both hands and looked at her with tears in her eyes. "Second sister, how could you say that? It was like this again, pretending to be like this." Lu Mingwei closed her eyes, and a picture of Lin Lang and Lin Shi singing and crying from childhood to the mainland came to her mind. She felt a surge of anger and blood, and couldn't help but push her forward and say, "What are you pretending to be? There's no one else here now, and who are you pretending to be like this pitiful person to show? People who are already about to become mother. Law, putting on this posture doesn't hurt their eyes." Lu Linlang was pushed by her and stumbled, sobbing and taking a few steps back, almost falling. Fortunately, before she could stand still and fall, Wu Wenjie suddenly rushed in and supported her waist. He asked her softly if she had fallen, and angrily looked at Lu Mingwei, scolding him angrily, "You hate dogs now, and only your sister is kind enough to come and see you. You don't know how to be grateful, and you even hurt others. Your heart is as small as a needle, and you only remember when we divorced for a lifetime." Lu Mingwei is going to be laughed at in anger. She married Wu Wenjie through fingertips. Her mother, Wei Shi, and now Lady Wu, the Duchess of Chu, were close friends in the boudoir. They became pregnant and often went to temples to worship Buddha. Therefore, they made a marriage agreement with their children, agreeing that if they had a son or daughter, they would become their own family. So Lu Mingwei and Wu Wenjie can be considered childhood sweethearts, and she naturally believes that she will marry Wu Wenjie in the future. But Wu Wenjie only started to shout about his divorce because he saved Lu Linlang from falling in the water. Later, he even shouted about her marriage ceremony, making her a joke throughout the capital and unable to even return to his own home. These two people have caused so much harm to her, and now they feel that coming to see her is already a great gift, but instead she doesn't know what to do. How could there be such a shameless person? Lu Linlang whimpered a few words before waiting for Lu Mingwei's reaction. She first grabbed Wu Wenjie, who was furious, and choked softly, saying, "Forget it, Wenjie. We're sorry to second sister, and second sister should blame us." I knew she used to say that if she didn't blame us, we were all lying to us. Wu Wenjie snorted coldly, his anger getting even stronger as he was teased. Lu Mingwei, you don't even pee and look in the mirror. Just your appearance, I don't even care about you. Don't even compare yourself with Peng'er, even if it weren't for Peng'er, I wouldn't marry you. You die of this heart. Lu Mingwei couldn't bear it anymore and bent down to pick up the scroll, slapping Wu Wenjie in the face and saying, "You can also pee and take care of yourself. Just like you, who has a short vision and can't walk when you see a beautiful woman, do you think I like you? Even if it's Lu Linlang, do you think if she doesn't have the status of Duke and Crown Prince of Chu, she can like you? Don't think so. After all, what is Wu Wenjie so outstanding about?" Lin's mother and daughter went to great lengths to choose him, but it was only because of his high status, poor brain skills, and the fact that he was her fiancé. It's ridiculous that this fool thought he had met true love. Lu Linlang opened her eyes wide and whimpered, denying, "Sister, how could you say that? Of course, I truly love the Crown Prince." Wu Wenjie was also furious. He used to hear all the good words from Lu Mingwei before, but after causing a big scene and withdrawing from the marriage, he also felt that Lu Mingwei was feeling very sad. He didn't expect that Lu Mingwei would be so vicious. He couldn't help but push Lu Mingwei hard and angrily shouted, "Get lost." Lu Mingwei was thrown back and took a step back, just stepping on the other half of the scroll that had fallen to the ground before. As her foot slipped, she collapsed backwards with a loud bang, hitting the corner of the yellow pear wood table with the back of her head. She felt a headache, and her internal organs seemed to be no longer hers. She reached out and touched a thick and sticky pool of blood. Outside was a bustling scene of gongs and drums. When the time came, the firecrackers prepared by the Marquis's mansion crackled and the deafening sound covered Lu Linlang's screams. In a daze, Lu Mingwei saw Wu Wenjie landing and Lin Lang turning around and running. It's really ridiculous. Her thoughts gradually dissipated, and her confused mind flashed through the desperate cries when she was expelled, the angry scolding of Lu Xianzong, the helplessness of the elder sister, and the smile on Lu Linlang's face. She struggled to exhale a breath and tightly grabbed half of the painting in her hand with 10 fingers, never closing her eyes until death. This dog man and woman. She cursed in her heart. The new book is booming, don't everyone like it? Recommended and held by the cute little fairies passing by. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. What's different? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. What's different? At the end of March, the peach blossom forest in Changyong Marquis' mansion was colorful with fallen petals, and the sunlight shone on the branches, plating them with a little golden light. From a distance, it looked incredibly beautiful. Lu Mingwei lived on the swing stand under the peach blossom forest, watching the girls holding baskets to pick up the frightened cat on the wall. She had a calm expression, and the sunlight seemed to envelop her with a layer of golden border, making her feel a bit dazzled. Wu Wenjie reached out his hand and shook her reluctantly. With some pity and some disgust, he pursed his lips and said, "Lu Mingwei. I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? The boy's voice was rough and hoarse, similar to the ducks in the lake. This made Lu Mingwei instinctively furrow her brows and raise her head according to the voice. Her gaze fell on Wu Wenjie's face, which was still considered Zhou Zheng. A pair of dark eyes stared at him tightly. What are you saying? She has been awake for over half a month now, and this is the first time she has left her room. In fact, it has been a half-month since her past life, which makes her somewhat incredulous. Fortunately, she was accustomed to the world in her previous life and now fully accepts the fact that she returned to the age of 15 after her death. Wu Wenjie was a bit anxious and said, I mean, the day you fell, I was there too. It wasn't Lin Lang who pushed you, you can't blame her. Lu Mingwei tugged at the corner of her mouth. I was so anxious that I ran into her on the first day she left, in order to help Lu Linlang out of guilt. Once upon a time, Lu Mingwei didn't understand why she married Wu Wenjie through fingertips and childhood sweethearts, and why Wu Wenjie ended up being so ruthless and heartless. She remembered the past and her eyelashes trembled slightly. She lowered her eyelids and said, I understand. Wu Wenjie originally thought it would take a lot of lip service to persuade her not to trouble Lu Linlang. After all, this time Lu Mingwei fell off the rockery and indeed walked in front of the gates of hell. She was unconscious for half a month, and the whole mansion even prepared her coffin. He was a bit proud. Always like that. Whatever he said, Lu Mingwei would listen. Lu Mingwei was like the most loyal dog following him, doing whatever she was asked to do without dignity. He smiled and breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. You finally understand. In a few days, my mother will hold a spring outing banquet at the villa outside the city. I'll have her post you then. It seems that in his heart, her life is worth this post. If he gave her this post, she should be grateful. If it were for the former Lu Mingwei, she would have been extremely angry by now, but now Lu Mingwei can't even stir up a ripple. She looked at Wu Wenjie for a while and slowly tugged at the corner of her mouth, nodding. Wu Wenjie left satisfied, leaving Lu Mingwei still on the swing. The wind blew and the petals fluttered down, causing her to turn her head and her smile to completely disappear, leaving only indifference. At this moment, Hongwuan leaned over, still holding the Persian cat with mandarin duck eyes in her arms, and excitedly said to Lu Mingwei, Miss, the snowball must have escaped while the sisters in Yunhe Academy were not paying attention. Shall I send it back to them? Yunhe Yuan is the courtyard where Lu Linlang lives. Red Luan is so excited that everyone around Lu Mingwei looks at her. Ko Hongwuan has always been a proud first-class girl in front of Lu Mingwei. It is well known that Lu Mingwei dotes on her, so no one dares to speak up. If it were in the past, Lu Mingwei would definitely agree. She is very kind to Lu Linlang, thinking about everything she gets first. Even if there is a dispute between the two sisters this time, Lu Mingwei is pushed down by Lu Linlang carelessly, and Lu Mingwei has not seen the stubble of finding Lu Linlang. Only another big girl, Lily, spoke sarcastically with a hint of resentment, saying, Cats know how to recognize their owners, so there's no need for sister to be so attentive. With a pun on her face, Hongwuan's expression immediately changed. She instinctively looked at Lu Mingwei, but saw that she remained unresponsive as usual. She breathed a sigh of relief. Also, the two girls have always been the least scheming and timid, unable to fart even after 3 rolls. What do you know? She gave Lily a cold glare and turned to Lu Mingwei with a smile, saying, Miss Eyre, do you think this little hoof is very sensible? It's one thing whether the cat recognizes it or not. Let's send it over, but it's our favor, don't you think? What an eloquent mouth. Lu Mingwei looked at her, and now she was no different from looking at Wu Wenjie. She felt that their thoughts were simply shallow and seemed ridiculous. She waved her hand without hesitation and said, Send it back. Red Luan proudly raised an eyebrow at Lily, turned around, and walked away holding the cat. Lily trembled with anger and bit her lips, shouting, Mississippi. She was sent by Sister Lu Mingwei, wholeheartedly planning for her. But what kind of climate can she become alone? Over the years, Lu Mingwei has been influenced by the Lin family's mother and daughter, and has replaced almost all the loyal people around her. Now she is the only one left, but Miss Air doesn't listen to what she says. It's really annoying. Lu Mingwei is almost being opened and swallowed by someone, yet she is so innocent. She didn't know what to do in the future, and tears welled up in her angry eyes. Lu Mingwei saw her tears of injustice, and her heart was filled with infinite emotion. She smiled and asked Lily, "Where's Mom Sue?" Lily was taken aback. Sue's mother was Lu Mingwei's wet nurse. When she was here before, Lu Mingwei fell ill every 3 days. Later, Lin had someone invite the abbess from Suiyin Temple to come and see her. The abbess said that it was Sue's zodiac sign that had clashed with Lu Mingwei, so Lin sent Sue's mother away. She blinked her eyes and looked at Lu Mingwei with some surprise, not quite understanding her meaning. Lu Mingwei continued to speak faintly, "I fell and I missed the 5 colored meatballs that Sue's mother made. Go and call Sue's mother back. I am truly grateful to God for bringing her back to the eve of her marriage." At this time, she had not yet been publicly repented by that foolish Wu Wenjie, causing a bad reputation. Her maternal family, the Wei family, had not yet declined, and Lu Xianzong still cared about the face of the Wei family, which was still considered a favor for her daughter. Everything is at its best, and she will never let herself repeat the same mistake, leading to a miserable death in her previous life. Lu Mingwei suddenly mentioned Sue's mother, and Lily was both surprised and delighted. Looking closely at Lu Mingwei's expression, she saw that although her face was still a bit pale, her eyes were clear and bright. When she looked at people, her eyes looked like a lake, which made her somewhat surprised. Miss Air seemed to be a bit different. She remembered that it had been half a month since Lu Mingwei woke up, and during this half-month, she had never mentioned Lin Shi and Lu Linlang. If it were in the past, it would be impossible. And just now, young Master Wu Wenjie came, and Lu Mingwei didn't circle around him like before. She remained very calm from beginning to end. Could it be that Miss Air fell and her brain finally became smarter? Fresh updates are here again. If you like it, please click on bookmark and add it to the bookshelf. Those who pass by can vote for a recommendation. Thank you and bow down. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Lotus Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Lotus Sister Wu Wenjie excitedly went to Yunhe Academy, like a wagging dog and a worried beauty, asking for credit. Linlang, you don't need to be punished. Don't be sad now. His loud voice startled the thrush birds on the outer shelf, flapping their wings and chirping. Lu Linlang, who was lying on the beautiful chair under the carriage, looked up and gestured for Hongwan to step back. She stood up with a snowball in her arms and laughed angrily. What did the crown prince say? Where did I feel sad? She was wearing a cherry pink gold sprinkled coat today, covered in tea white buns, making her look even more graceful and elegant. Wu Wenjie smiled at her and said, I told that ugly monster not to speak recklessly, and that ugly monster agreed. When she was in her teens, Lu Mingwei was far less outstanding than Lu Linlang. She wasn't really ugly, but she was thoughtful and didn't like to talk. She lowered her eyebrows and was pleasing to the eye, making her easily overlooked. Especially, Lu Linlang is best at dressing and dressing up, and every time she comes up with unique ideas, it makes her look disheveled. It is common for young people to be attracted to women, and Wu Wenjie quickly forgot about the silent Lu Mingwei, wholeheartedly trying to please and flatter this future sister. Law. Lu Linlang, however, did not feel as happy as he had expected. Her face changed and she was about to cry, Brother Crown Prince. How could you be so extreme? You clearly know that my sister and I had a dispute before because of you. Sister misunderstood my closeness to you and that's why we were on the rockery. It's okay not to mention this matter, but when it comes to it, Wu Wenjie sneered, she took it for herself. She was jealous of you and even reached out to push you. If it weren't for God's eyes, then you would have fallen off. You didn't mean to. My crush is a cinnabar mole, and my fiancé AE is mosquito blood. When Wu Wenjie mentions Lu Mingwei, he feels disgusted. Lu Linlang burst into tears and said, Prince, you are my sister's fiancé A. Originally, because of the incident on the rockery, my older sister scolded me. Now that you're running to talk to my sister like this, where are you leaving me? Are you grilling me over the fire? The beauty was in tears, and Wu Wenjie's heart was immediately grabbed. He hurriedly expressed his loyalty, Lin Lang, that was a marriage between fingertips. I don't really like that ugly monster. Don't worry, I have already told my mother that I will definitely not marry this ugly and annoying woman. I must divorce her. Lu Linlang was shocked and quickly turned his back, saying, Brother Crown Prince, if you say that, I have no place to stand. You go quickly, don't come again in the future. This incident has made me extremely sorry for my sister. I will never do anything to harm her again. You go quickly, I will never see you again. She turned her back, her slender figure still trembling, indicating how sad she was. Wu Wenjie's heart was about to break when he saw it, but he didn't dare to provoke her. He could only stomp his foot hard and say, Lin Lang, you are always so kind that she will bully you more and more recklessly. Wait, I will definitely get rid of this dog skin ointment, and I will come back to you then. After he finished speaking, he turned around and ran away. Lu Linlang turned around, with no expression on her delicate face. She reached out and casually wiped away the tears on her face, then sat down on the recliner with the snowball in her arms. Red Luan looked on the side in awe. How can Miss 2 compare to Miss 3? Not to mention her appearance, Miss San's ability to deal with Wu Wenjie is truly impeccable. Wu Wenjie doesn't even glance at Miss Air, but he is playing tricks with Miss San, creating a sharp contrast. Lu Linlang relaxed and relaxed, already lazily caressing her cat while speaking. You know, she didn't cry with the crown prince today, or did she inquire about what happened that day? About a month ago, she had a dispute with Lu Mingwei over Wu Wenjie. Lu Mingwei was holding her back to demand an explanation. It was at a spring banquet in the garden, and everyone was watching. How could she let Lu Mingwei, this idiot, ruin her reputation? In casual attire, she stumbled and fell back, wanting to accuse Lu Mingwei of being irritable, domineering, and harming her sister. But who knew that idiot Lu Mingwei thought she was really about to fall, and in that situation, he gave her a sudden pull. She stood firm, but Lu Mingwei rolled down from the rockery. If this fool had just died like this, that would have been great. After all, at that time, so many pairs of eyes were watching. It was Lu Mingwei who pushed and pushed herself that she fell off, and it had nothing to do with her sister. Unfortunately, Lu Mingwei's foolish life was good. After enduring for half a month, the family notified people at any time that they would go to the Wei family to mourn. The married elder sister Lu Mingxi also rushed back and slapped herself indiscriminately. This fool woke up. After waking up, Lu Mingwei remained silent for over half a month. Lu Linlang also went to see her with her mother, but every time she went, Lu Mingwei remained quiet, talking to her. She didn't know if she had hurt her or not, and didn't reply. Everyone says that Lu Mingwei's fall may have damaged her brain, and now she has become a fool. This kind of silence makes Lu Linlang feel a bit uncomfortable. She is a very sensitive person and always feels that there is something wrong with Lu Mingwei, but she can't say what is wrong at the moment. Coincidentally, Tao Yao, the eldest maid of Lu Linlang, walked over with a plate of cherries. Hongwan quickly and attentively reached out and handed it over to Lu Linlang, while not forgetting to reply, yes, it's a bit strange. We all know what the girl used to think, just circling around the crown prince. But this time, I don't know what's going on. She didn't even get angry. Lu Linlang squinted her eyes, her white and slender fingers pointing at a cherry with a smile on her face. This is really a strange thing. Is it possible that second sister has truly realized it? She sneered as she spoke, glanced at Tao Yao, and immediately handed him a silver coin. Alright, that's it. Lu Linlang lowered her eyes and said, let's go back. If you have anything to do, come back and help me keep an eye on it carefully. It will benefit you in the future. This silver coin weighed at least 1 or 2, and the red one happily thanked him. After many pleasantries, when he hurried back to the Bodhi Tower, he saw Lily guarding outside the corridor and quickened his pace to walk inside. Miss, have you rested? I'll go in and see Mississippi. Lily, however, reached out to stop her and said calmly, the girl is talking to Sue's mother. She has instructed people not to wander around casually. Mom Sue. Hongwuan was taken aback for a moment, puzzled for a moment, then frowned and asked, which Mother Sue? Is it the former steward Mother Sue's mother? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Poisonous Stepmother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Poisonous Stepmother. Red Luan's heart trembled with a chill, and her face suddenly turned ugly. Relying on her usual favor, she reached out to push open the lily and lifted the curtain before entering the door, saying, Girl. I'm back. As soon as she entered the door, she saw Lu Mingwei wearing a gray rat-skin cloak and sitting on the bed by the window, with a small chair placed next to her and Sue's mother sitting on top. Upon hearing the commotion, both of them looked towards her. Lu Mingwei clearly had no expression on her face, but for some reason, Hongwuan felt a little uneasy when she saw her clear eyes. She quickly burst out laughing and said, Miss San asked me to take care of you. She said she came to see you a few days ago and you were all resting. Now that she knows how you are, she is extremely happy. I was wondering why Lu Mingwei had actually brought back Sue's mother. Sue's mother is naturally cautious and always speaks tough. It's not easy to get along with her in Lu Mingwei's yard. Lu Mingwei sent her away a few years ago and hasn't thought of her in these years. Why did this person suddenly come to talk to Sue's mother? Sue's mother stood up with gratitude and kowtowed to Lu Mingwei, saying, Thank you very much, Mississippi. I will come back after completing the task over there. Red Luan widened her eyes. As soon as Sue's mother left, she couldn't help but ask, Miss, how did you retrieve Sue's mother? She pouted and said, You forgot, Mom Sue is the strictest. In the past, even when you flew a kite with the Crown Prince, she would talk incessantly for half a day. If the Crown Prince found out that you had brought her back, he would definitely be angry. Without lifting her eyelids, Lu Mingwei reached out and pulled the cloak from her body, saying, When will you be the one to ask about my affairs? Speak up. Hongwuan didn't expect Lu Mingwei to suddenly say this, and her face turned pale with fear. Miss, I'm just worried about you, she said. Lu Mingwei picked up a scroll of scriptures placed next to her and said in a deep voice, Get out. Red Luan inexplicably withdrew, holding her breath. Seeing Lily looking at her with a smile on her face, she felt even more embarrassed and couldn't help but grit her teeth and return to her room. Lily walked lightly back into the room and stood at the curtain, softly calling out a girl. Just now, Lu Mingwei explained that if Hongwuan came back, she would pretend to stop her and let her in. She saw that Lu Mingwei was different, but she didn't know what she wanted to do, and felt a bit confused. Come in. When Lu Mingwei saw Lily approaching, she put down her book and asked in a deep voice, Are you thinking, why did I call Mom Sue back? Lily hesitated for a moment, then nodded candidly and admitted, Miss, you've been hurt quite a bit by Miss San this time. I know you believe her, but she's not the same mother as you. Previously, Lu Mingwei was most annoyed by hearing these things, but Lily had to say, Miss, and you are the same mother and compatriots, and the young master is your younger brother. You can't continue like this anymore. Wu Wenjie saw that she had already been tightly controlled by the mother and daughter. If Lu Mingwei were so naive, she was afraid that there would be no bones left to be eaten. She couldn't help but feel scared when she saw Lu Mingwei half silent and said, Mississippi. I know now, Lu Mingwei said calmly. After Su Mama completes the delivery over there, she will come back to work as a servant. You are the big girl in my yard. If there is anything in the future, you and Su Mama can discuss it with each other. Lily didn't expect her to say that. If Lu Mingwei understood, how could she let Hongluan come in and run into her? Anyway, that's all for now. Lily simply said, Miss, Hongluan is close to Yunhe Academy. Yeah. Lu Mingwei tugged at the corner of her mouth and said, it's precisely because she wanted to go talk to that side, otherwise I would have suffered so much injustice and wake up without any reaction. Isn't that too strange? Lily is both surprised and delighted, the girl really understands. As the sun sets in the west, the sky gradually turns golden, with large dark green clouds piling up on the horizon, as if it's about to rain. Lu Mingwei stood by the window, watching the figure of the red phoenix in the drizzling rain. The corner of her mouth lightly hooked. The bait was lowered. Under the spring rain, it was frustrating. Although Hongluan held up her umbrella, she inevitably got her skirt wet. She stood under the corridor, wring her skirt dry, and accompanied a smiling face to plead kindly with the maid in the main courtyard, could you please pass on a message for me, sister? I have something urgent to see my wife. In the main courtyard, Lin Shi was watching her little son play with a pillow while talking to her daughter, so, I finally went out today. The mother and daughter were chatting and laughing. Lu Linlang personally took a small knife and cut open a navel orange, handed it to the mother first, and then asked the wet nurse to feed the younger brother. She nodded and said, that's what the crown prince said. It seems that he still has a grudge against us. How many times have we been to her room these days? She always says she's sleeping, tired, and just can't see us. She held the navel orange in her beautiful and slender hand, paused for a moment before pondering and said, maybe you've learned to be smart. Lin wiped the corners of her son's mouth with a handkerchief and said, we need to hurry up on this matter. The Wei family is afraid they have also noticed the signs, urging your father to quickly finalize their marriage. But the marriage of Duke Chu is so important, how can it be given to that lowly race? Unfortunately, that despicable person had a good fate and relied on her mother's kindness to entangle with the Duke of Chu, refusing to let go. Lin felt a little angry when she remembered this. She pursed her lips and a hint of resentment flashed in her eyes. Then she looked at her daughter with some guilt and said, it's all because my mother doesn't have the same background as Wei. Otherwise, with your looks and abilities, where wouldn't you be better than that cheap girl? Lu Linlang's beautiful eyes suddenly widened, and she held Lin's hand in both hands to act coquettishly. Why does my mother say that? In my heart, my mother is the best mother. Besides, what if you marry with your fingertips? The crown prince brother doesn't even look up to her. The more she entangles with him now, the more he hates her. She has been scolded by the crown prince brother repeatedly for harassing him. Who in Beijing doesn't know that she doesn't have face now? Such a reputation must also be disliked by the Duke of Chu. The groundwork is almost done, and soon even Lu Mingwei won't be able to keep this marriage. The reason why Lu Xianzong still values her a bit now is simply because she has such a prestigious marriage. Once she cannot even maintain this marriage, Lu Mingwei really has no place to stand in this family. My daughter is as beautiful as a flower, with a clever mind that surpasses that grass bag on 10 streets. Lin Shi smiled contentedly and said, yes, my mother used to be not as good as Wei Shi, but now the person sitting in the position of Lady Ho is me. My daughter is also 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than her daughter. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Fighting Acting Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Fighting Acting Skills. After talking for a while, Lin quickly signaled to her daughter to speak softly and nodded at the wet nurse as she watched her little son yawn with his mouth open. The wet nurse quickly hugged the child and went down to sleep. At this moment, the girl came up to report that Red Luan had come over. Lu Linlang raised her eyebrows and said, "Didn't you just come and let her in?" Hong Luan stood carefully by the incense burner, her eyes afraid to look around. After bowing, she whispered, "When I went back, I saw Miss Eyre meeting her mother Sue." Sue's mother held Miss Eyre's hand and cried, not knowing what they had said. Before leaving, Sue's mother said, "When the matters in the outer courtyard are handed over, I will return to Miss Eyre's side to work." Lin frowned. This Sue mother was the dowager of the Wei family and married a steward in the mansion. Later, she became pregnant and had children around the same time as the Wei family, and then became the wet nurse of Lu Mingwei. She is a soft and hard person. After Lin got married, she tried several times to bribe her, but she firmly refused. Finally, the reason why Lin couldn't tolerate her anymore was because there was a fight between Lu Mingwei and Lu Linlang. It was clear that they were both children, but Sue's mother cried in front of Lu Xianzong about the pitiful child who had no mother and could only be bullied. Both inside and outside the words were about Lin's favoritism, and Lu Linlang bullied Lu Mingwei by relying on having a biological mother. Lin found a way to drive Sue's mother away. Lu Mingwei has never thought of this Sue mother in all these years, but now she suddenly wants to take her back. If it weren't for this incident, it would be indescribable. Lin snorted coldly and said, "It seems we really need to learn how to be smart. With this handsome fall, we feel that we are not good anymore. Naturally, we need to find those elderly people who used to say that we are not good to go back to our side and offer advice." Lu Linlang burst out laughing and said, "People are stupid and there is no cure. They have already been so foolish. Where can they learn to be so smart?" After thinking for a moment, he shook his mother's hand and said, "Mom, since my sister can see guests now, how can we not go and see her?" Lin reached out and scraped his daughter's cute and perky nose, then casually instructed the people below, "Serve the young master well. If he wakes up and comes to me, then hold him in the warm pavilion and don't freeze him." The Bodhi Tower is located in the northwest corner of the Lu family garden, surrounded by two huge camphor trees. One of them requires 4 or 5 people to embrace, and the branches on top can lay on people. At this time, it is spring, and all things are revived. These trees have also sprouted green leaves again, and they are lush, with squirrels wandering on top and not afraid of people. Lin didn't stop and led Lin Lang straight through the hand-reading corridor. When she saw a little girl lighting lanterns outside, her movements slowed down a bit. When she entered the room, she saw Lu Mingwei standing up in the dim yellow light. The warm lights cast a halo around her, making her look a bit more lively. She paused for a moment, then quickly took a few steps to hold on to Lu Mingwei's hand and said, "I've come over several times, and I've been running into you sleeping. These days, you've been feeling low-spirited, and I'm worried about where else you might feel uncomfortable. I heard you left the door today, and I thought you were in good spirits, so I hurried over to see you." She had a sincere expression on her face and a sincere tone, looking like a perfect mother. If it weren't for seeing her face in another way, Lu Mingwei would have thought it was her own mother digging her heart and lungs. She pursed her lips, lowered her head without saying a word, following her previous suffocation without any difference. Lin sighed lightly and said, "Good child, if you have any grievances, don't keep them in your heart. Tell your mother, don't you still understand her feelings for you? You are like Lin Lang, both good children of your mother." Lu Linlang smiled brightly and followed her forward to hold her, shaking her hand delicately. "Second sister, don't be angry, it's all my fault. I won't argue with you anymore. Whatever you want, I'll let you do. I'll listen to you." It was already evening, and as several masters were in the room, the people outside were too afraid to speak a single word, and the surroundings were completely silent. "I don't want anything, I only want the crown prince's brother," Lu Mingwei suddenly choked up, crying out like a wounded little beast. "I used to like my mother very much, but she deceived me. She has always been a sullen gourd, always keeping any worries hidden in her heart. She looks like a mute to the outside, even if asked to speak, she knows how to say good things. Now she cries whenever she cries, even the highly skilled Lin and Lu Linlang are slightly stunned. After a moment of stunned effort, Lu Mingwei had already spoken out again, "What treats me like my own child? It's all fake." I remember clearly that at that time on the rockery, it was San Mei who was about to fall. I reached out to help her, but she didn't hold me, so I fell. She was extremely aggrieved and said, "When I woke up, everyone said it was me who accidentally pushed third sister to fall off the rockery. My mother said it was the same to us all. If it was the same, how could she not ask the truth and speak for me?" Lin's sweet words were all blocked, and she looked at Lu Mingwei inexplicably. For a moment, she suspected that Lu Mingwei had hit a ghost. She frowned and said, "How could you say that? How could Lu Mingwei's focus be here?" According to common sense, Lu Mingwei should keep pestering Wu Wenjie's words and keep nagging about Wu Wenjie's affairs. She has always been unable to distinguish priorities and only has one Wu Wenjie in her heart, but now why does she seem to have a brain? "You guys come together to bully me," Lu Mingwei cried uncontrollably. "I want to tell my father that only my father truly loves me in this family." Lu Linlang and Lin Shi exchanged a glance, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Damn it, if it weren't for knowing that Lu Xianzong was brought in by them, they would have thought that Lu Mingwei had already known that Lu Xianzong was out there. These words were deliberately meant for Lu Xianzong to hear. The original plan fell through, and even with Lin's good patience, she became a bit irritable. "Don't cry for now. This matter hasn't been figured out yet, you can't just talk nonsense." She was about to grab Lu Mingwei's hand, but Lu Mingwei was emotional and shook it off hard. Due to her excessive movements, she accidentally rolled off the edge of the bed and knocked over a large vase by the bed. The sound of porcelain shattering in the room was accompanied by Lu Mingwei's screams and cries, and there was a great deal of commotion for a moment. Lin didn't expect the scene to develop like this, and there was a hint of scrutiny in her eyes as she looked at Lu Mingwei. At this moment, the door had already been pushed open with a loud bang, and Lu Xianzong stood at the door with a solemn expression, looking around the room. He asked in a deep voice, "What are you causing trouble?" The room fell silent for a moment, and everyone caught off guard. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Fake Innocence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Fake Innocence. Lin's kind-hearted mother had a flawless expression on her face. She affectionately took a handkerchief and dipped it into the corner of her eye, saying, "It's nothing, it's just that Vivi misunderstood. Lu Mingwei has no advantages, she is full of shortcomings. Especially when it comes to clinging to Wu Wenjie with a shameless face, it has caused a lot of trouble in the city. Everyone knows that she can do it for Wu Wenjie without shame." Lu Xianzong felt deeply ashamed and became increasingly disappointed with Lu Mingwei over this matter. As Lin's patience was about to run out, he had already planned his time and came by himself. When Lu Xianzong heard that he had come to Lu Mingwei's place, he would naturally follow him. And every time Lu Mingwei heard about Wu Wenjie, she would lose control of her emotions. Either she only knew how to cry, or she would be full of words about how to deal with the crown prince's brother. Who would care about what the truth is? Lu Xianzong would only be more angry at Lu Mingwei's ugliness. But the planned play made such a big mistake, and her mood plummeted to the bottom. However, Lu Mingwei had already pounced at Lu Xianzong's feet and said, "Father, I didn't push my third sister to fall, I did it to help her." "None of them told you." Lu Xianzong thought for a moment and realized that Lu Mingwei had indeed fallen heavily this time. A while ago, the mansion even beat half of her coffin to congratulate her, but because she was pushing her younger sister, she fell. Not to mention someone else, even he, as a father, felt a bit resentful and felt that she deserved it. But Lu Mingwei fell just to help Lu Linlang, and Lin Shi and Lu Linlang didn't mention it at all. He glanced at them. They didn't mention such an important matter at all. Now that Lu Mingwei has woken up, if the Wei family had known about it first, they would not have given up easily. Not long after Lu Mingwei was born, Wei fell ill. At that time, a nun who often came to the mansion to preach told Wei that this was because the newly born little daughter was descended from the heavenly Sha star, which hindered her parents. She wanted to be sent to the temple to live for a while and let the Bodhisattva influence her for a while before she could be unharmed. At that time, Lu Mingwei's maternal grandmother strongly opposed it, and Lady Wei was angry and said, "If there is anything that is too strong in evil energy and needs to be controlled by bodhisattvas, I will eat fast and recite Buddhism all year round, and my family also worships a small Buddhist temple. Why do we need to send our children to the temple? With such a tiny child sent to the Buddhist temple, can we really grow up by relying on Buddhist scriptures?" So, Lady Wei took Lu Mingwei over to raise her. Mrs. Wei brought Lu Mingwei up with her and had deep feelings for her. This time, Mrs. Wei had an accident in Mount Wutai. After hearing the news, she immediately rushed to the capital from Mount Wutai and calculated the time. It would only be a few days before she arrived. If Lady Wei knew that Lu Mingwei had fallen and been injured so seriously, it was all because of Lu Linlang, and she still carried the injustice. She would definitely not give up easily. She has gone to the battlefield to kill Japanese pirates, and led the military and civilians alone to defend a city. Lu Xianzong felt that his third daughter, who had always been obedient and sensible, was too immature. Why didn't we talk about this earlier? The handkerchief in Lu Linlang's hand is almost torn to pieces. She has always been the only one who acts spoiled in front of Lu Xianzong. When will it be Lu Mingwei's turn to pretend to be weak and obedient here? Lu Mingwei let out a sob, and Lu Xianzong looked down at her. Only then did he realize that there were several prominent bloodstains on the back of her fair hands, which were still losing blood. He sternly scolded, "Where are people? Are they all dead? Help Miss Eyre stop bleeding." Lin and Lu Linlang were stunned by his scolding, and Lin's face turned blue and white, staring coldly at Lu Mingwei. All day long, she hunted geese but was caught in their eyes. In the past, Lu Mingwei was obedient and innocent, but now she looks fake. Otherwise, how could one handle it so easily? She seemed to know very well how to gain sympathy and pity from Lu Xianzong, and how to exploit his anger. This is really quite interesting. Unfortunately, if you think this can bring you down, it would be naive to go too far. Tears welled up in her eyelashes, and tears immediately came down. Then she turned around and gave Lu Linlang a hard slap in the face. In the quiet night, the loud slap on the face appeared particularly clear. Lu Linlang was hit and turned her head away, looking at her mother in terror. Lu Xianzong was also somewhat surprised and immediately frowned. This daughter is kind and well-behaved, always the apple of his eye. Now that she has been slapped, there is a noticeable slap mark on her face, and he can't bear it anymore. Lin scolded Lu Linlang loudly, "Bastard! Kneel down for me. How do I usually teach you? I asked you to respect your sister and take care of your younger siblings, but you did such a thing. It wasn't your sister who pushed you, why didn't you say it? Quickly push away one's own responsibility. And as long as she doesn't know, then this matter is just a matter between children. How big can it be between children?" Lu Mingwei lowered her eyes to look at her wound and gave a cold smile in her heart. Lu Linlang also started crying, even crying with tears mixed in her eyes. "I don't know. The situation was too chaotic at the time, and I couldn't stand steadily at first and was about to fall. I don't know who helped me, but after I came down, everyone said that my sister slipped and fell because of pushing me. She has always been angry about the Crown Prince's brother. Not admitting it is not possible." The words that Lu Mingwei said to them earlier were heard by Lu Xianzong. They did not refute at that time, and further refutation appeared to be a sophistry. It's better to blur the key points. Lu Linlang held her face and cried uncontrollably. Lu Xianzong was a little upset, but also a little impatient. He shouted angrily, "Okay. Go back to the room and reflect. The two sisters are making such a mess. What's that like?" Lin also sighed and squatted down to say to Lu Mingwei, "It's all your sister, isn't it? I didn't know there was any misunderstanding in between. I wronged you. It's really my mother's fault. My mother will compensate you for it. When you're okay, whatever you want is okay, okay." Lu Mingwei ignored her and grabbed Lu Xianzong's sleeve, saying, "Father, help me tell the crown prince brother that I didn't push third sister down the rockery, it was third sister who pushed me." Lu Xianzong's face stiffened. At first, he felt that this girl was not so useless and had been wrongly accused, which was a bit pitiful. But now he has reverted back to his old ways. In her mind, she can only pretend to be the next Wu Wenjie, and she really has no future. Lin narrowed her eyes with suspicion. Just now, I thought Lu Mingwei was cunning and naive, but what she's saying now seems to be the same as before. What's going on with her? Is it a false innocence or a genuine scheme? Even Lin couldn't quite grasp the depth of this Lu Mingwei. Lu Linlang also put down her hand to cover her face, her gaze fixed on Lu Mingwei. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. True Heart Shaking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. True Heart Shaking. Lu Xianzong felt that Lin's mother and daughter were at fault, and because Lady Wei was about to return to Beijing, he rarely showed a gentle attitude towards Lu Mingwei, saying, "It was your sister's fault this time." However, the situation was chaotic at that time, and she was the most easily confused. She was too scared to say anything for a moment, and we can't blame her entirely. After a pause, he said to Lu Mingwei, "Don't talk about this again. Outsiders will only talk about your sisters fighting for husband. How hard it is to hear what they say. You are getting older now, and you should be sensible in the future. If you have a bad reputation, you will lose more than your face." Seemingly fair, but actually biased to the extreme. If it were her doing such a thing, in the mouth of Lu Xianzong, it would be her heart to be punished, unfilial and disrespectful. Now that she has become Lu Linlang, what floats lightly is her timidity and confusion. Fortunately, now Lu Mingwei doesn't care about her father's bias either. She didn't argue and spoke to Lu Xianzong again. "I got married on the 2nd day of April. My father wants to help me arrange the marriage. I won't argue with her anymore." Lu Xianzong felt a bit helpless and very disdainful of his daughter's bewildering appearance. "Being mesmerized by a man, with only Wu Wenjie in my heart, what does it look like?" But the two were originally married through fingertips. Besides, Wu Wenjie is the crown prince of the duke's mansion, and this marriage is also extremely advantageous for the marquis's mansion. Lu Xianzong said with a stern face, "Don't just talk about marriage without marriage. Girls, what does this look like?" But in the end, he still said, "I will discuss this matter with your grandmother. You are not allowed to act recklessly." Lu Mingwei's smile should be. She didn't care about Lu Xianzong's opinions and anger. In her heart, starting from the slap at the birthday banquet, her father died. She just had to go through Lu Xianzong to achieve some of her goals. The Lin family returned after a defeat. Lu Mingwei is usually very afraid of Lu Xianzong. She is more distant than close to him. The more she yearns for him, the more cautious she becomes. In the past, Lu Mingwei always paid great attention to appearance, and she would not act spoiled or cry in front of Lu Xianzong. But today, watching her do these things, she is really skilled. You can't judge a person by their appearance. Lin lowered her eyes, her face calm. Lu Linlang was also a bit uneasy. She held Lin's hand and whispered, "Mom." Lu Mingwei's eyes were straight and she looked at me with hair on my back. She's really different. How could the former Lu Mingwei show such a gaze? When she cried in front of Lu Xianzong, her eyes were icy cold. Lin regained her composure and said, "If it's different, it means she's different from us. But listen to that tone, she still has a special fondness for her crown prince and brother. Lu Linlang calmed down slightly, and some of her previous discomfort dissipated. She smiled smugly and said, "What's the use of her worries? The crown prince only obeys me. If Lu Mingwei is one of Wu Wenjie's dogs, then Wu Wenjie is his own dog. Dogs revolve around their owners. Thinking about it, Lu Mingwei doesn't even have the qualification to be a dog directly for her. What's so proud of? Whether it's her father's favor or Wu Wenjie's preference, she can never surpass herself. Don't take it lightly, either." Lin pinched her daughter's face and said, "I won't let her steal your things. The best thing in this world, of course, can only be left for her daughter. How could it be cheaper than a fool like Lu Mingwei?" As the mother and daughter were talking, Lin Mama outside shouted loudly, "The master is back." The mother and daughter exchanged a glance and both stood up. When Lu Xianzong came in, Lin greeted him first and said, "You're back. How's Wei Wei doing? I know she definitely doesn't want to see us now. It's not good to go over and see her again, for fear of making her even more angry." Lu Linlang was about to cry on the side, biting her lips and bowing her head to admit her mistake. "Dad, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I'm confused. I made such a big mistake, which made my sister so angry." Lu Xianzong had always doted on her and thought she wasn't intentional. Now that he saw her crying like this, all his anger had dissipated. He shook his head and said gently, "Well, I knew you weren't intentional. It's just that your second sister has gone through the gates of hell once, so just let her go." Lin sighed and said, "I'm afraid Vivi has really misunderstood us and will be separated from us ever since. What else can she remember in her eyes except for her crown prince brother?" Lu Xianzong shook his head and thought of this, which made him both angry and amused. He said, "Well, anyway, that's all she cares about. She's also about the same age, and she happened to take advantage of her and Geely to finalize their marriage, so she wouldn't have to worry about it all day." Lin's heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect that Lu Xianzong would suddenly mention the matter of engagement. Previously, it was only a verbal marriage between the two parties, but ultimately, it was not a formal engagement. However, if it was an engagement, the meaning would be different. "Isn't it cheaper for Lu Mingwei?" she said awkwardly. "I've been waiting for her and her hairpin for more than 10 days. Isn't this too urgent? We haven't communicated with the government either." "I'm not afraid of that," Lu Xianzong said nonchalantly. "It was originally agreed upon between Wei Shi and the Lady of the Duke during her lifetime. Besides, with her mother-in-law at home, she spoke up and the Wu family naturally understood our intentions." He didn't see the expression on his wife and daughter's face and said directly, "Hurry up and settle this matter, so as not to cause any disputes. If a woman doesn't want to stay, she will stay and become enemies." Lin forced a smile and agreed. Lu Linlang was almost on the verge of breaking her palm, and when she returned to her room, she still wanted to land on the words of Emperor Xianzong. "Are we going to finalize it? If she is really engaged, how will she go and grab Wu Wenjie again? What would others say about her?" Originally, the government had not mentioned any intention of marriage in recent years, and Wu Wenjie was extremely disgusted with Lu Mingwei. She thought of gradually letting Lu Mingwei tarnish her reputation and completely ruin the marriage. But now such a sudden change has occurred. Lu Linlang felt a little jealous in her heart. Why does Lu Mingwei rely on her? She is just a rascal, nothing to ask for. She believes whatever others say and has no brain at all. However, it is only through her grandmother that she begged for this marriage in vain. On the other hand, Emperor Lu Xianzong had already urged Lin to post the Geely post. She and Madame Tai will definitely help her with a big deal. Don't mistreat her. In the future, we Lin Lang will also follow this standard. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Skilled Techniques. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 9. Skilled techniques. Lu Mingwei leaned on the cushion and lost her mind for a while, only then did she come back to her senses when she heard the commotion. Hongwon hesitated as she entered from outside and nervously called out a girl. The hand that Lu Mingwei showed in front of Xiang Mingzhong before really made Hongwon a little wary. She had already gained a lot of benefits from Lu Mingwei's foolishness. Holding Lu Mingwei here and betraying her every move from Lin Shi and Lu Linlang. She ate both sides and made a fortune over the years. Not only did her family buy a small house near the Huang Daxian temple outside, but her brother also married a wife. If Lu Mingwei becomes smarter, she thought this way, and suddenly met Lu Mingwei's ancient well-like eyes. She couldn't help but shiver and quickly burst out laughing. "Miss, I was thinking that the young master should also come back. Do you want to prepare?" Lu Mingwei regained her senses and thought of Lu Yunting, with a faint smile on her lips. Her relationship with Lu Yunting was never good in her previous life. After she was born, she was taken over to her grandmother for upbringing due to the words spoken by her teacher, so her relationship with her sister and younger brother was not very good. Especially Lu Yunting, he is the youngest child of the Wei family. When Lu Mingwei comes back during holidays, she is very jealous of the younger brother who is always held by the Wei family. When Lu Yunting was young, he was only close to Lu Mingxi. She felt isolated by her sister and younger brother, loving and hating her mother in her heart, as well as harboring resentment towards her sister and younger brother. In addition, she was spoiled and lawless by her grandmother. After returning, she disliked the constant persuasion of Lu Mingxi and had a very bad attitude towards Lu Yunting. She and Lu Yunting despised each other. But in her previous life, the Qingdang ancient Buddha she had lived in the temple was also the abbess who constantly guarded the area at Lu Yunting, afraid that they would mistreat her and make her live a bad life. After being expelled from the family, she became an old aunt who couldn't get married and struggled in the temple. Once, Wu Wenjie took Lu Linlang to the temple to pray for a son, but Wu Wenjie deliberately humiliated her. It was also Lu Yunting who rushed up to block her and punched Wu Wenjie hard. At that time, he had already been framed by the Lin family and Lu Linlang very miserably, and had lost the favor of Lu Xianzong. Lu Xianzong publicly opened a temple to adopt him out to the childless second wife. "I have never heard of having my eldest son adopt me, and everyone knows that it is impossible for Lu Yunting to inherit the Marquis's mansion." The bright young man, who was originally full of energy, now had a stooped and humble appearance. He rushed forward and punched Wu Wenjie, leaving Lu Xianzong extremely disappointed in him. She did not see Lu Yunting at the birthday banquet before her death. Looking back now, I'm afraid that Lu Xianzong also did not want to see this son at the banquet. She turned her head to look at Hongluan and said, "That's just right. He's back. I need to go see him. Please prepare some gifts for me." Hongluan saw her attitude towards her as usual, and her tense strings relaxed slightly. She looked at her tentatively and said, "Miss, why did you suddenly annoy Miss San?" Lu Mingwei raised her eyebrows and asked coldly, "If I like or dislike her, then I hate her. I hate people who want to compete with me for the crown prince's brother, can't I?" Lu Mingwei is always sullen in front of her elders, only being closer to the Lin family. Usually, in order to highlight her irritability and impoliteness, Lu Linlang puts in a lot of effort to hold her, but Lu Mingwei is still very intimidating in front of servants. As soon as she spoke, Hongluan dared not say more and went over with a teasing smile. When there was no need to stay overnight in the evening, she found an opportunity and secretly sneaked into the Yunhe Academy, telling Lu Linlang the news of the inquiry. Lu Linlang had already learned about Lu Xianzong's request for the Lin family to handle the hairpin ceremony, and when she heard Red Luan say so, she couldn't help but tug at the corner of her mouth. It seems that this fool really hates himself for falling off the rockery. But so what? Stupid, isn't he still the same? He's a fool. No matter when, her mind can only hold on to her prince brother, without any shame, not knowing that everyone is actually watching her jokes. She asked again. Lu Mingwei said she wants you to prepare a gift for her brother. Hongwuan nodded hastily and said, Miss, that's what she said. It seems like she has regretted it. Perhaps she wants to establish a good relationship with the young master. Lu Linlang sneered, almost overflowing with disdain in her heart. Since Lin married in, she has been doing everything well, especially to Lu Yunting. She is always seeking warmth and comfort. Unlike Lu Mingwei, the Xiaolin family has led her closer to Lu Yunting. She grew up almost together with Lu Yunting, whereas the romantic bond that Lu Mingwei, who came back later, can match. Thinking that Lu Mingwei was about to announce her marriage at the Jili ceremony and prepare to repair her relationship with Lu Yunting, Lu Linlang took a handkerchief and dipped it into the corner of her lips, putting down the cup in her hand. She wants to make Lu Mingwei happy. When Hongwuan left, Tao Yao quickly came up with rose water to wash her hands and whispered, Miss, don't worry. The young master and you have the same heart, and we don't even pay attention to that person in our daily lives. Lu Linlang threw the handkerchief back into the basin and instructed expressionlessly, Go out and tell your brother to find a way to reveal it to the crown prince, and then say I've been wronged. Wu Wenjie was attentive to her, and along with these servants who bribed her, it was clear to Lu Linlang that he knew her news. Tao Yao was busy responding. Sure enough, in the evening, Wu Wenjie came to his door under the pretext of delivering peaches. He smiled and said to Lin, My mother said, this is the first batch of peaches on the farm, cultivated by our fruit farmers. If anyone else wants to eat such peaches, it will have to be in May or June. I'll bring them over and let you have a fresh one too. Lin smiled and said, Madam, you're too polite. I was just thinking about when to go, and I have something to say to Madam. Wu Wenjie is very attentive. If my mother knew you were going over, she would be extremely happy. She always says she likes to chat with you. The two families have a close relationship, and he is also related to the Marquis's mansion. In the future, they will be related by marriage and have no taboos. After delivering the peaches, he said he would go to the inner courtyard to see Lu Mingwei, but the Lin family did not stop him. They just asked Lin's mother to accompany them inside. Wu Wenjie was familiar with the way and headed towards the Yunhe courtyard. Lin's mother thought she didn't know and found an excuse to leave halfway through. The yard was quiet, and as soon as Wu Wenjie entered, he saw the snowball that Lu Linlang liked the most sitting alone on the lounge chair. He couldn't help but frown and say, Where are people? Just as Tao Yao came out, he was startled and said, Why did the crown prince come? Get out quickly. Our girl has repeatedly reminded us not to see you again. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Get out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Get out. The crabapple flowers in the yard have bloomed, and the large Western-style crabapple trees are hanging down, adding a touch of brilliance to the entire yard. Lu Mingwei looks at the flowers outside the window, her face a bit pale. When she was young, she loved flowers very much, all kinds of flowers, but when her appearance gradually withered and people described her as withered flowers and willows, she no longer liked flowers. After looking for a moment, she averted her gaze and asked Lily, who was entering the door behind her, where did she go again? Lily was very clear about who she was talking about, and quickly replied, Yes, I was specifically watching. After she left us, she went to Yunhe Academy. Lu Mingwei became accustomed to this and gave a faint smile, Follow her. Lily, however, was somewhat worried. Miss, since you know she's not good, you're so indulgent with her. Red Luan became even more indifferent, simply openly betraying her. Lu Mingwei tugged at the corner of her mouth with a hint of ambiguity and said, Indulging her is good. Indulging her is what makes her complacent. She stopped talking and said to Lily, See if Mom Su has come. If she has, please invite her over. Su's mother arrived soon and bowed her head to greet Lu Mingwei with a respectful attitude, waiting for her to show her some unease. Lu Mingwei saw her nervousness and smiled, saying, Mom, don't be so nervous. I did a lot of confused things before. It's because I didn't distinguish between good and bad, I'm sorry. Her personality is extremely contradictory. On the one hand, she is spoiled by Lady Wei, and she has to get whatever she likes. On the other hand, she is extremely insecure and always wants to be favored and recognized by Emperor Lu Xianzong. She seemed to have spent her entire life searching for a sense of identification with people other than her grandmother. Because of this, she couldn't listen to Sue's mother's nagging words. Now, thinking about it, Sue's mother was sincere. Sue's mother was pleasantly surprised and hadn't been a housekeeper for a long time. She was a bit uncomfortable now and shook her head awkwardly, saying, "How could this happen? The girl can't be wrong." "I won't say that anymore." Lu Mingwei looked at her and said, "Mom, do you have a booklet of things from my room?" Sue's mother quickly nodded and said, "A few years ago, when we came back from the Wei family, all the things we brought, your jewelry in silver, were recorded." "Then please trouble Mom to take inventory," Lu Mingwei said softly. "Let's sort out all these things recently." Sue's mother was in a hurry, but also a bit worried about Lu Mingwei. In her impression, Lu Mingwei would always revolve around Wu Wenjie and have no plans at all. However, there seems to be something wrong with Lu Mingwei now. After thinking for a moment, she hesitated and said, "Is the girl unhappy?" Lu Mingwei was not unhappy. She shook her head and Lily suddenly walked in with a happy expression on her face. "Miss, Madam is here. She's outside the flower hall." The book in Lu Mingwei's hand fell to the ground with a snap, and she hurriedly wanted to leave. She has been separated from her grandmother for many years, and on the day her grandmother passed away, her biggest concern was still their 3 siblings. She went to the temple to clean up, and her grandmother often came to accompany her. Sometimes when my grandmother gets angry, she pokes her forehead and says, "How could I teach you such a wooden girl? How could you make yourself feel so wronged?" Later, in her 3rd year at home, her grandmother passed away. As soon as she died, the last umbrella in front of her also broke, and all the wind and rain in the world tilted towards her. With these thoughts in mind, Lu Mingwei's steps became faster and faster. Just as she was discharged from the hospital, she saw Lady Wei, dressed in an autumn fragrance-colored jacket and wearing 8 horse-faced skirts, approaching from under a nearby peach tree. She grabbed the hem of her skirt and rushed towards Lady Wei. Before Lady Wei could react, she threw herself into Lady Wei's arms. Mrs. Wei instinctively hugged her and noticed that she was trembling in her arms. Her heart softened for a moment before patting her back and saying, "This big person is like a child." Madame Tai wanted to come and see Lu Mingwei on her own, but neither Lu Xianzong nor Lin dared to follow. Taking advantage of the absence of these 2 people, Madame Tai took Lu Mingwei back to the room and asked her, "Is there anything else that's uncomfortable? I asked Dr. Tang to come and see you again tomorrow. As a young person, you should take care of your body, otherwise you will fall ill and suffer from it in the future." Lu Mingwei tightly grasped her hand, nodding like a little pug. She was grateful to see her grandmother again. Madame Tai looked at her expression, both angry and amused. She reached out and poked her forehead, saying, "I'm afraid now. Why didn't I think too much when I was making trouble on the rockery? I've told you many times that Wu Wenjie doesn't like you, so let's not want him. It's not a big deal, just a man. This doesn't work, there's always a way. You're just like your mother, too narrow-minded." Madame Tai didn't like Wu Wenjie. Later on, she withdrew from the marriage and went to the northwest. When she found out about this, she even chased after Wu Wenjie and beat him up with a crutch. She even scolded Wu Wenjie bluntly, "If we were to divorce, it wouldn't be your turn as a fickle little person. A family of ungrateful dogs. The Wu family has lost all face." It is said that Lady Wu has been afraid to go out to see guests for a whole year. Lu Mingwei lay on Lady Tai's lap, listening to Lady Tai's chatter. "You don't have much to say in your family anymore. I always tell you that you need to be careful in everything. If you tell you in the first place, you will listen to the Lin family and daughter in the second place. She was quietly listening to Lady Tai's words when suddenly Wu Wenjie's shouting came from outside. Lu Mingwei, don't hide quietly. I know you're inside, I'll tell you. Mrs. Wei stood up suddenly and walked quickly to the door. She looked coldly at Wu Wenjie outside from a high position and said, "What are you going to say? Let me listen." Wu Wenjie didn't expect Madame Tai to be there, and all the curses were stuck in his throat, causing his face and neck to turn red from holding back for a moment. His parents both showed great respect to Lady Tai, and he dared not act recklessly in front of her. He blushed for a moment and saluted Lady Wei, shaking his head hesitantly. Madame Wei frowned and said very displeased, running around in someone else's inner courtyard and shouting loudly in the patient's courtyard, "Is this the private tutor of your Chu government? Get out!" Wu Wenjie's legs and stomach trembled when she saw him, and he quickly ran away without a trace. Madame Tai frowned even tighter as she looked at Lu Mingwei and said, "That's what you're interested in. If you get married to him, you'll still have to endure hardships in the future. I really don't know what you're interested in him for." She saw that Lu Mingwei was silent and sighed lightly. "All right, pack up and come stay with me for a few days." End of this chapter.